All right, welcome back. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to another episode of What Now. Thank you for tuning in. It is still a pandemic. We are about to go on second lockdowns. People are being quarantined again. Self-isolation is the talk of the town again. I started What Now to obviously motivate everyone and inspire everyone during this pandemic. So hopefully this is still doing its job. But I've also heard people that I should continue this whether there's pandemic or not. It is still hot in the Netherlands. It did rain, but I'm still sweating, so I'm still in minimal outfit here and hair up. Today my guest is the great rapper Chip Fu from the legendary hip-hop group the Fu-Shnickens. Obviously known for songs like True Fu-Shnick, Let's Move, and obviously Ring the Alarm and What's Up Doc. I used to have a radio show, an old school show for those that don't know, and I used to play this stuff all the time. So I'm excited to have him in here. I'm waiting till he gets back in here. What's up, May? I'm not sure what's going on today. Monday, August 17th. It's slow. It is 9 o'clock in the evening over here. Hopefully Instagram does a good job in letting everyone know that I'm actually live, and hopefully Chip will get back in here. So I'm not sure what's going on. Let me know how you guys are doing. As I said, we're about to get on a second lockdown, whatever. So I'm just chilling, continuing the What Now series. Last week they didn't save my my talk with Sunny, so that's unfortunate because it was a really, really good, inspiring talk with a great story from her, and I'm very upset that Instagram messed that one up. But hey, technology, they don't give me the option to save anymore. So let me see if Chip is ready. Anyway, thank you all for joining. What's up, Michelle and Michelle? That's funny. Thank you for joining. Hope everyone is doing okay. Honestly, thanks, May. I appreciate that. Love you too. Hope to speak to you soon. Catch up soon. I'm not really trying to have a monologue over here, so I'm honestly not sure what to do right now. Oh, guess what book I actually got in the mail finally after years and years of waiting. It's the book from Romeo Johnson, vocal coach, singer extraordinaire. So I'm excited to start reading that book. If you have missed my talks with him, very inspiring, very knowledgeable, informative. And so go check the talks that I've had with him. I had 2 talks. You can check all the talks on IGTV because Instagram did save those ones. Hopefully it'll save this one. But I am waiting for Chip to come in here. Yeah. I honestly don't have much to say. I'm so bad at monologues. I just need people to interact with me until my guest arrives. He should really get on here. I don't know. Maybe his connection is bad. What's up, people? Thank you for joining. Mr. Bryce Deasy. I don't even know how to... wine is Bryce Deasy. Kenneth. Thank you. How are you guys doing? How is the situation out there? Is everybody still surviving? Everybody still healthy? Oh, Hawaii. Nice. I was actually just talking about Hawaii and going back there for, well, whenever the gates open up again. I can't go anywhere at this point. Stupid pandemic. I can't go anywhere. I can't see my family, my friends. Old school crates, what's up? Can some of you just nudge Chip to get in here? Because, oh wait, he says he's ready. There he goes. Okay. Let me get him in here. Let's see how that works. I don't know what's going on with Instagram today. Things may be a little slow, but, hey, what's up?
What's happening?
Thank you for joining. I was about to do this slow, very boring monologue, and I wasn't up for it. So thanks for getting in here.
No problem. I'm here.
I appreciate it. I did a whole long introduction. Well, not that long. Just introduced you. First of all, thank you so much for wanting to be a guest on the inspiring, motivating series, What Now?
Right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. I was saying in the introduction that I used to have a radio show, an old school radio show, and I used to play you guys all the time. So it was pretty cool
Thank you.
to
Thank you
actually
for
speak to
playing us.
you. Huh?
I said, thank you for playing us.
Oh yeah. Between all the stuff from the '90s and late '80s, I played all of that stuff. So I'm old too. But it's always exciting to speak to somebody that I used to really love, and you don't know if you get to meet people. I think we did meet at some point when you were out here years ago, but like I said, my mind, we're getting old.
No, you're not getting old. You're getting better.
We're
We're
getting
getting
better.
better.
That's right.
We're getting better. We're not getting old. We're getting better.
That's right. So first of all, as you know, I started this series because of the pandemic. The
Right.
whole industry shut down. Artists are frustrated, depressed. Nobody can do anything.
Hmm.
How has the pandemic affected you personally and business-wise?
Business-wise, the pandemic basically put everything on pause, which is true.
Yeah.
The pandemic put everything on pause, but it affected me in some positive ways and in some negative ways. The positive way is by putting everything on pause, and during this whole reset, it's actually more so about moving slow and taking everything in stride
Yeah.
and not taking the little things for granted anymore. That's one thing, and more so having time for myself, because I was always on the go. I never really paid attention to a lot. It was more so about recording and
Right.
taking care of the workshop and everything like that. It wasn't about family time. So now I have family time, and it's a different thing. I'm approaching everything carefully and understanding that you know, time is really precious, because you never
Yes.
know. You get what I'm saying? And I think and on a somber note, I had lost my mother-in-law to this whole
Oh,
situation.
I'm so
So
sorry.
I appreciate it, but for me, it just made me look at things. It just made me look at things more different now. So
Yeah.
the way in which I approach everything with my all now, and it's not about being, not like I was always lazy when doing things, but I'm just saying I think now more so
You're more
because
conscious. Yeah.
more conscious of what I'm doing and making sure that whatever it is that I'm doing, I really want to do. You know what I mean? So that's
Right.
how it's affected me.
Well, that's, you're my talk number 49 in this
Okay.
pandemic. And pretty much all the artists and creative people that I've spoken to are said the same thing. Like they're always on the go. They're
Hmm.
just busy with work and, making the next project or creating the
Right.
next thing. And this really was a time for everyone to sit still, reflect, and also really find out and remember what's important.
Right.
And I can imagine losing a close person or loved one will
Hmm.
definitely emphasize that even more.
Yes, it has.
Um, yeah, that's. I mean, today's actually the birthday of a friend of mine, a rapper who also passed away due to COVID because of
Oh,
COVID. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's his birthday today. They're having a whole festival online right now for him to basically celebrate him.
Hmm.
Rest in peace, Ty. So
In peace.
we all know how that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to a little bit more positive things.
Hmm.
So the pandemic has also taught you how to slow down.
Yeah.
What are some of the new routines that you are now implementing in your life? Like, is there anything that you look at health wise or mentally, or physically?
All basically, health wise, I'm eating totally different. Eating totally different, because before it was more so about getting up and running out the
Eating
house
out.
and eating out. But I think now for me, it's about more vegetables on the healthy side, making sure that when I go outside, it's more so in and out. And it's the weirdest thing, because when you went outside, everybody looks like zombies because they have their face
Right.
covered. So for me, it's a difference, because I'm used to speaking to people and saying good morning. Now
Yeah.
people don't want to talk. It's
Right.
it's a
Everybody's
bizarre.
like,
Everybody is just
yeah.
focused on what they're doing. On the health side, I make sure that every day I try to run a mile. I go to the park and I run a mile in the
Well, that's
park.
good.
I make sure that the push-ups and everything is there, and I talk more with my family. I talk more. I talk more with my son, you know, because normally being on the go, you don't get to do stuff like that. So I talk more to him. I talk more to my sister, my brother. I have more conversations with my wife. We do a lot more things together because now it's we have more time to sit and we're really around each other right now.
Right.
Not like before when you're like, all right, well, I'll see you when you get home from work.
Right.
We're basically here saying, okay, so you wake up, you know, she's working from home, so it's a totally different vibe. But I respect it, you know, I respect it for what it has helped repair in my everyday. I'm writing more when it comes to music, and even when I go to the studio, everything has changed because some of the songs that I recorded don't really say what I want to say now because of how I feel now. Right, I feel totally different than how I felt in the beginning in March. I feel totally different. So, you know, all this MC this and MC that. No, that's not what I really want to get off my chest. So I think on a creative level, on the creative level, it's brought a lot of new vibration my way and creativity. So I'm good with that. Yeah.
So that is actually really interesting to hear because, you know, when I started this talking to artists, it was obviously the beginning of the pandemic. So it was kind of like it hit everyone instantly. And now we're like 5 months in and you're literally telling me that you're already a changed person over these past 5 months, because that to me is a testament of being changed if you don't want to say the same things anymore that you did 5 months ago.
I don't.
So it already became a new habit, a new routine, a new mindset. On top of that, I love that you said that you have more actual conversations with your wife and you do more things together, because, you know, the divorce rate went up when everybody was supposed to stay home together. And suddenly you have to deal with that partner that you were just living past each other. You know, you just doing what you do because it's a routine. It's your normal. Now you're stuck together and you're like, okay, what's going on? So I do like the fact that you actually reconnected and found what's important again, including
very much so.
Health routines, food intake, diets, physical routine. Do you think you can stick to all of this? Let's say everything went back. I don't think everything goes back to normal, but let's say it does, or we open up again and everybody can do what they want. Do you think you fall back into your old habits, or can you stick to this?
I think my old habits are not. I think my old habits are the old me. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people need to understand that you have to basically change your way of thinking in these times and understand what's important to you. And I think that because everything was put on pause, you now see what's important to you. So even if everything goes back to the way in which it's supposed to be tomorrow, I don't think that I would be the same person. I think the person who I am now as an individual will be that person that would continue to move forward. And I'm thankful, you know, I'm thankful for everything and for the time alone to be able to say, you know, the person that you were before wasn't right for you because, you know, you're living to be living. Some people were just living to be living and they understood that they were just living by paycheck. And not trying to basically live life for what life is and understand how precious it is as the gift that it is. But I think for me now, that's where I'm at right now, is making sure that when I wake up, I'm extremely happy to wake up, to call my family, to speak to my wife and be like, all right, we made it through another day. You know what I'm saying? Even though, even going outside for the walks now, they're totally different. It's not like how we used to go outside and be like, yo, I'll be right back. No. When you come back in the house and you make it in and you wash your hands and take the mask off, you're happy to be that you made it back home. So everything, everything is totally different for me right now.
People take things for granted. I want to address the person that came in here and made a comment about, I thought it was going to be about hip hop. Now, I can sit here and have a whole discussion about what hip hop is, but this person that I'm talking to is a legend in hip hop. So this couldn't be more hip hop than anything else, regardless of what we talk about, because you are part of hip hop culture. I am part of hip hop culture. What we discuss right now is just as much part of the culture right now as anything else. So if anybody thought this was going to be about music, I'm sorry, this is going to be about everything that Chip is now going through and what he's doing in his life. So Okay, anyway, I wanted to address that because I don't
No
want people to
problem.
get the wrong idea of these talks. These talks are supposed to be uplifting, inspiring, and I think
Hmm.
you're an excellent person to be a guest to do that for people.
Thank
Also,
you.
because of your resume and your history.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. So yeah, going back to the pandemic and everything.
Hmm.
So yes, you established a new you.
Hmm.
This is something that not everyone is able to do. A lot of people stay in their negative, stay in their, frustration about the world. They
Right.
can't adjust as easy as everyone else.
Hmm.
What is one of the things that you would give out as advice for people that are still stuck in, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to create?
Well, normally they have to understand this. A person would go into fight or flight mode if it was a situation where they were outside and something was about to happen. They would have to make a decision. And I think that the
Yes.
biggest thing that people need to understand is you have to make the decision first. In this situation that we're in first, you have to make a decision for change because you have to understand everything around you is going to totally change, and you're going to be and you won't be able to fit into the new norm. So you have
Yeah.
to understand what your new norm is about to become and say to yourself, are you ready for it first and foremost? And make the self changes first before committing to the new norm. You understand what I'm saying? And I think
Yes.
self changes make more sense than anything else because you have to understand that there's a lot of people that are going through the worst at this time.
Yeah.
A lot of rates are going up. A lot of people are saying, something, I'm going through a lot and I need to sit down and talk to somebody. I think right now that's happening because they actually have time to pay
To
attention to
sit
what
to sit with
to sit
themselves.
right to
Yeah.
sit with themselves and pay attention to what's really
Yeah.
going on with them, and have to make those decisions now and say to themselves, well, this thing really bothers me. I think
Yeah.
I have to take the time to get this help because I wouldn't be able to function
Yeah.
properly anymore. So I think that it's a good thing that people are actually spending time with themselves, and I think that it's time that I think we needed we needed time for ourselves to
Yeah.
understand what we needed to change about ourselves in order to move first. And that's the first thing that needs to change in anything when there's change around us is mentally
Yes.
how we're going to deal with everything. Yeah.
I agree, and especially in this environment now,
Hmm.
the change has to start from within before you can make a change in the world.
Yes,
Whether
agreed.
within, because you start with you, then you start with your circle, and then from your circle you can make a change in society.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, Nice little segue to my next question. Obviously, we started in March with the pandemic, and then June hits us with the unfortunate murder of George Floyd.
Hmm.
How has that affected you and your circle, your family?
Normally when we see murder, we normally didn't see murders.
Right.
We'd actually would hear about murders, and then we would see footage that they wanted us to see.
Yeah.
And I think that when they showed us footage that they wanted us to see, it affected us, but it didn't hit home as how this hit home because we were able to actually see
It was
everything.
in your face. Yeah.
It was in your face. We were able to see it from different camera angles, from cameras
Uncensored.
across, right,
Yep.
cameras across the street behind the police vehicle, and we understood that right now we are actually watching somebody get murdered. So
Yeah.
it really did hit home for me, being a black man and having a son. It really hurt because this is
Yeah.
the first time he saw that image, right? Because going to school and everything like that, we understood how this world is, but to actually watch it, and then after seeing it, I knew I had to have a particular conversation with several young black men
Yeah.
when they decided to call me, like all of my nephews and my god kids, when they called and was like, uncle, what I just watched, is it real? Because first and foremost, when you see it
Right.
online,
It's
everybody
unbelievable.
was wondering if it was fake news or not. But then when they got out that this is real news, I had to have conversations with my son about, son, this is really how the world is. And as parents coming up, we try to protect our kids from as much as we can protect them from. And then
Yeah.
there was a time when we were telling them, this internet thing, don't always go online, but our kids are totally different now, and they're into the telephones and going on the internet. So
Yeah.
everybody saw it in real time, and everybody
Yeah.
saw it when it was distributed actually on all the sites.
Yeah.
So it was a totally different conversation and a totally different feeling that I felt at that particular time.
It's triggered the snowball effect of protests all around the world, not
Yes,
just in America.
yes, it
It's opened up, I don't want to say a can of worms, but basically
say that.
shit that yeah.
You can say
Well,
that.
it opened up a can of shit. Excuse
Yeah,
my
it did.
language, but I'll take worms over this.
Okay, no problem.
But yeah, so even here, you know, being in Amsterdam, we're dealing with the same type of racism and discrimination. It wasn't just always in our face. And also people saying it's not happening here. Again, it's not happening here because you don't see it. It's
Right.
not filmed. It's not put out there. And in March, we had a black man killed the same way as George Floyd over here.
See, that's
and it didn't get out into national news until mid-June, 3 months later. And that was also triggered by the pressure of the protests of the Black Lives Matters movements. But I think everything in 2020 is about change. Like you said, at first you have to start within and then spread that out, hopefully, you know, trigger other people to make the same change. But the whole start is trying to inspire people to really make the change within themselves. Even with racism, you know, it's mental. You have to change something inside you, and that has to be brought over to other people.
I think that the weirdest part was a lot of people understood that racism exists, but it was blatant for them to see it in this particular part in time in history, where you had people just coming out and just actually acting on impulse about how racist they are as individuals. So you were getting stories about George. You were getting stories about kids going to have fun in a park and somebody walking up on them and telling them different things. And I'm glad that we were able to spotlight a lot of these things and make the corrections that we were supposed to. But you know, for some older individuals, that's basically their way of life and their way of thinking for the longest. And I think that it's a disease, and the type of disease that it is, it's a hereditary disease that was passed down. So sometimes these people that act out the way in which they do, we can't even really blame them. We have to blame who taught them. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes it's hard to erase because this is something that they've been living all their life until they see different and change. So even when even explaining to them how horrific it is to act that way and to do or to act out and do certain things like this, it doesn't even come across to them as being strange because they've been living that life for the longest.
It's normal to them.
It's incredibly normal to them. And I'm just hoping that this time around, because, you know, there's always a time in history when there's an uprising and then things change for a few months and then it
dies down.
I think the difference with this one is this is all around the world. Where everybody is saying, you know something, I'm having a problem here. We got to remove these statues for one. In England and all over the place. And I'm glad that it's sparked this movement. And I'm glad that the younger generation are understanding that it's totally wrong to be treated this way because of, you know, one's complexion, the color of your skin. And I'm glad that these changes are actually happening. You know what I mean?
Same.
I'm super glad.
I have to say today is also Independence Day of Indonesia.
Okay, happy Independence Day.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch. The Dutch are, next to the British, the biggest colonizers in the world. And that is how I kind of ended up here. So Indonesia is the birth country of both my parents. I'm mixed, also a product of colonization because my dad was Dutch from German descent, stationed in the colony of Holland in Indonesia at the time. And well, not my dad, my granddad. And so my dad was born out of that in the colony, which is pretty recent because it's now the 75th year of independence for Indonesia.
Wow.
And me not being Black, I get a lot of, you don't know because you're not Black and you don't live in America, but I mean, hello, I live in the Netherlands where literally
entitlement is trickled down into the DNA of Dutch people without them even understanding it sometimes. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's not America, but it's a whole different type of situation.
Very much so.
Okay, going on to a more positive subject. Talking about, you having kids and your nephews and everything, you started an educational program. Now, I first want to talk about how you thought of your hip hop background, combining that with the program that you have now, that you run.
I mean, it all started with my mom, actually. She had a daycare center in Brooklyn called the I.A.T.H Daycare Center, where she taught regular kids and kids with special needs together. And that was just something that she figured would work. She said if you taught everybody the same way and you taught them slow enough, everybody would catch on because they would see the change in the other kids around them. So me seeing this, being in the industry and coming home and actually seeing her doing this, in the beginning, I was like, I don't even think it's going to be done. But then when she gutted a house, she bought a house next door to our house and actually gutted it out and turned it into a daycare center for kids with special needs. And so she woke up every morning, went to work. After work, she would come home to the center to take care of these kids. So I think on a daily basis, when I saw her do this, I said, you know something, maybe I need to try something different too when it comes to healing the kids in the neighborhood. So I remember sitting down with, I think
Was this in
Chantel is,
Brooklyn?
yes,
Okay.
I think Chantel is on here now. I remember sitting down at the table with my wife and Chantel, and we were talking about starting a program, and it actually started in housing, because I figured if we went to housing first, where the kids would actually come home from school, they would have some place to go, which was in the rec centers and housing. So I said, let me put together a program which blended hip hop along with mentoring. So it started in housing, and then from there, the kids started spreading the word around in the neighborhoods into the schools before I even got to the schools. So the schools started getting in touch with me and saying, these kids are talking about how they're able to learn better with the use of hip hop. Can you come to the schools? Came to one of the schools, the teacher was like, well, you're not even a teacher. And I said, if you give me 45 minutes with your worst class, I'll be able to teach that class.
Right.
And he said, I will give you the worst class in the school. And he gave me the worst class in the school, which I don't think is the worst class.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But he gave me the worst class in the school. And when I went in there, all I did was set up, I had my DJ set up the turntables, and I just put a mic in the center of the floor, and I played one mic, and I told them, I said, everybody in here, calm down, close your eyes. And anything that comes to mind while you're hearing this music, write. And the kids closed their eyes for 45 minutes, which was unheard of. 45 minutes they closed their eyes. Just basically
you got them quiet.
Right, thinking and listening. And then these kids got up and was, at the end of the class, and was like, the class is too short. I said, well, I'll be here tomorrow. And then these kids started getting up and doing poetry, kids that didn't even talk in class.
Wow.
Then we started finding out that, some kids were going through a lot of hardships at home, because now they're able to talk about it and put it to words rhythmically and poetically. And these kids are crying because they're finally able to say about, how they feel about their parents, the loss of parents and family members. And
they have a way to express themselves.
There you go. We gave them the platform.
Yeah.
We gave them the platform, an encouraging platform, and a place where they can be themselves. And then it just took off from there into the school systems.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So, hip hop, when I told my mom, I was, because I've been a music journalist for about almost 20 years now. And when I tell my mom, I'm working with rappers and, hip hop, and my mom doesn't know anything about that. So when I was younger, that was like, oh no, because she sees the images on TV that are portrayed about, what hip hop culture is. Mm-hmm. And so these type of things make me happy, because this is the positive aspect that's being, stressed right now, emphasized, because I really think that is very important, that hip hop, first and foremost, is a form of expression. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody that knows the history of hip hop knows how it started. And so to use that same form of expression to help kids learn and give them a purpose and a passion to express themselves, that's the most positive influence you can have out of the hip hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are things that I think are very important to bring to light. And so I think, first of all, respect to your mom for
Yes, respect my
being that
mom. Respect my
dedicated
mom. Yes.
in contributing to the community and helping, and and so that had an effect on you. And
Mm-hmm.
much respect to you for implementing that whole program as well.
Appreciate that.
What is the goal with the program other than the schools and stuff? Are you trying to expand? Are you trying to implement it all over the states, or?
Well, I've teamed up with a company called Generation Hip Hop Global, and
Okay.
they're all over. There's sites that they're building sites all over the world where they want to actually implement it through the sites to teach hip
Oh,
hop in
cool.
these places to reach certain cases that they believe that they need help in, and to bring me on board to do something like that at that magnitude for me is a blessing, because
Yeah.
they're actually telling me, well, listen, whatever it is that you created in schools, we need that in Belgium. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm getting another call. We need this in Russia. We need this here. We need that there. And once this thing is lifted where I'm able to fly and go to these countries, they actually want me to set up with the head people that's there,
Great.
teach them the curriculum actually,
Yeah.
and just basically take care of everything via satellite, where they'll call me and let me know, well, what's the lesson for this week, and I send
Right.
them the lesson and everything. So for it to grow to get to that point from Flatbush, Brooklyn,
Yeah.
to be able to be worldwide and able to touch kids, and me being able to go out there and visit these places and speak to people, it's an incredible thing. I think the most beautiful Here I am. The most beautiful thing that has happened that I loved about the situation was they asked me to speak to some kids in Africa, in Matisipo in Africa. So I was able to sit down, and I think this was the first time that they ever went live with anybody,
Yeah.
and to talk to the kids about hip hop and about life and about life changing experiences. I think it was the most beautiful thing. So I'm I'm super excited for that,
Yeah.
on that side, to be able to speak to people and go to these different countries. And I'm also super excited um, to showcase new music.
Yeah.
I think blending both of them will be a beautiful thing. And I love the way that the kids in New York, per se, when you come into the classroom and you say, well, let's write some stuff together, the first thing that they see is age. You understand what I'm saying? So they automatically feel that you won't be able to say what they're saying, or rhythmically you can't keep up.
Right.
But for me,
A
once
little
we
do
get
they know about
right,
you.
right, little do they know, once we get it going, it's an incredible
Oh
thing. And
my
just to
gosh.
watch
Yeah.
their faces change, and then they tell their parents,
Yeah.
because these kids have phones on them, and they say,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, mister, what's your name?" And I say, "Well, tell your parents that Chip Fu is your teacher."
Right.
And then you see the kids run back in the classroom and give me the phone, and I'm talking to their parent. They're like, "Yo, I had your album. This is crazy. You in the
Yeah.
classroom with my son and my daughter. I can't wait to see you tomorrow." So then it's a beautiful tool, because now parents are coming in and
Right.
asking me questions in front of the class. They're
Yeah.
asking me questions, and then you would have teachers in different classrooms that would tell me that it's hard for these kids to understand social studies. So I would ask
Right.
them to bring in their the test questions, and the kids and I will actually go over the test questions by writing a song and adding the
Oh
questions into
wow.
the song. So they're repeating it and repeating the answers. So when they sit the exams, all the kids are passing
You
the
got to think of the song. Yeah.
exactly. So now they're thinking, all right, well, let me think about the song I learned in class, and they're passing everything.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so great. And
Yes.
it's
Thanks.
funny that you talk about the parents, because not too long ago I realized that I used to know all the rappers or the
Right.
artists, and now I know all the parents of the
See,
artists,
there you
because
go.
somebody was posting videos and pictures of this new generation artist, and I'm like, who's doing that? Who listens to this? And
Right.
I'm like looking at it. I mean, I'm not mad at the new
Mhm.
generation rappers, but it's just not my style. And I couldn't believe somebody I know is
Mhm.
posting this, and it turned out to be the father of. and he's a friend of mine. I'm like, oh, he's the father of little Yachty.
No,
So
there you go.
that's when I was realizing, oh, I'm at the age where I know the parents now.
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
but that's awesome. That's really great. Talking about you know, life and how to learn things. What is one of the biggest, I don't want to say mistakes or failures, but what is one of the things that really went wrong in your life that turned out to be your biggest lesson and that you're now applying to things?
The biggest lesson that I've learned in life is the biggest lesson that I've
Or
learned
one of
in
the
life.
big ones.
One of the biggest lessons that I learned in life is about time. We can't control it.
Nope.
We could only the strangest thing about time is the only way we know time is by creating a piece that tells us what time it is. And it doesn't even mean that time is that accurate. But
Right.
when you really think about it and you say to yourself, you know, I have time on my hands, you really don't. Because you don't know how things around you are moving. Everything around
And
you
you
is
can't
still
grasp it.
you can't grasp that you
Nope.
can grasp the concept of time, but you can't
Right.
hold time in your hand.
Nope.
So I think for me now, because of the way in which the world is, I look at time different. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? And I think that has changed the way in which I speak to people. Because for me, before it was like, all right, if you get in touch with a person that's a family member or a friend and you have a conversation, you would say to yourself, well, I know I spoke to them for 3 minutes. Now some people are having conversations after sitting and watching. Some people say, well, you know something, I just spoke to that person last week and they're no longer here.
Right.
We've never had conversations like that in a long time, and this is because of the time that we're living in.
Yeah,
You know,
that's very true.
I spoke to that person for 3 minutes, and then they're no longer here. So I think that even with this conversation that we're having,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm understanding that people are listening.
Yes.
We all need to say to ourselves, we can't take time for granted, and anything that you're actually releasing into the universe has to make sense.
Has to
And
have value.
even the time that we're spending, you took time to say to yourself, well, I want to interview Chipful.
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, I want to do the interview, I want to speak, and there's certain things that we're talking about that are helpful to people lifting, especially in this time.
Exactly.
So I think for me, I don't want to say that I was taking time for granted, but I want to take the time to understand. I took the time to understand how important time is to me with people in per se, because for granted, you say to yourself that you'd walk outside and someone would say good morning to you, and you're having a rotten day and you don't say good morning to them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take the time to say good morning to that
things.
person. It really is the little things. Watching a person cross the street, the things that we used to watch, we can't even look at those things anymore. So I think now, for me, the biggest change in my life is how I perceive time and how I use time.
Right. And it's funny because I used to be the person in my friend circle that would always make it a point to say out of nothing, out of randomly, I love you to my friends or thank you. And then they would always be like, oh, go away, you know, sure, I know. And, you know, it'd be very awkward. And over time they realized, okay, that's just Paige. She's just making it a point to say that. And I did that because I have unfortunately encountered situations where I didn't know if I was going to be alive or not, if I was going to see or not. I'm dealing with an eye illness, so I almost went blind. It's those things that really make you realize how precious everything is and how important it is to address the positive, because we're always quick to call somebody out when they do something wrong,
right?
But we let it slide when everything is okay. And so that is one of the things that I always make a point. Like if somebody does something great, just, you know, name it. Just name it. And but when I asked you the question, I actually wanted to know a solid example of something that you've done. It could be business wise, because I also know that your program is informing the kids about music business. Is there something, and I know that there are a lot of artists now watching, or maybe artists on the come up that may look up to you. What is one of the things that you did or a decision that you made while you were, you know, younger as an artist that turned out to be so bad that you're now telling everyone, don't do this or don't do that because I've done it? And
for me, I think that musically it was more so Okay, I could answer that question now. There's some people out there that when you hear their music, you don't know who they are.
Right.
So I could actually say now, with all the music that I put out over the years, I believe no one knows who I am as a person. So the new music that's coming out, there's certain things that I'm talking about where you can understand me more as an individual.
Yeah.
That's the change that I made, because it's just like, all right, I've known Chip Fu for the longest, and I don't even know if he's vegan, if he likes
Right.
vegetables. What's his favorite anything? And then
Right.
you go online, and then these people are reading a bio that somebody else wrote,
Right.
right? Somebody else wrote, and they asked you questions. Well, Chip, what's your favorite? And sometimes you know they get it misconstrued and they misinterpret what you said. And for me, I'm just saying, something. This is what I want to say, and this is what I want people to know about me.
About
And
you.
it transferred into the classroom too when teaching these kids, because some of these kids want to be artists. So
Yeah.
the one thing that I always tell them to do is to actually be themselves. One,
Right.
two, read everything that you're about to sign. Read
Yeah.
everything and make
Yes.
sure that you can read it. This is not a situation where you're handing it to a friend to read
No,
for you.
you have to
You need to
understand.
be able to read your contracts. You need to understand these percentages, these breakdowns, what
Yeah.
you're supposed to get. And I think that this is something that I never spoke about in my music before. I never had the platform to talk to
Right.
people about. So I think that's the difference with me that I didn't used to do before, because I was a more quiet one out of the group. I just wanted to get on stage and rhyme. Just give me the
Right.
mic and that's it. Let me just do my thing.
Let
And I
somebody
leave.
else handle the rest.
Let somebody else handle that. But I think now, even with performing and going to different shows, after the shows, when people want to have conversations, I invite that.
Yeah.
Let's talk, because I don't know. I believe that, you came to the show to hear me to do whatever it is that I'm doing, and whatever it is that I'm doing attracted you to the show, right?
Right.
So now that I have you here, there might be a ton of questions you want to ask me.
Yeah.
Or a ton of questions or a ton of things that might be bothering you, but you never knew who you could turn to.
Right.
So ask any question in the world. And that's one thing that I do. In the middle of a show, I might cut the music off and say, does anybody have a question that they want to ask me? And the crowd would start laughing. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
And then they'd ask me, how long was it when you were how long does it take you to record a verse? Who's your favorite producer?
So now, if I can interject there.
Right.
So, I mean, I know you don't really know me, but anyone that knows my work knows that my interviews were like in depth. So all the people that I did get a chance to interview back then, that was the person behind the music. I didn't necessarily talk about the music, because you can find interviews about the music everywhere.
There you go.
Back in our day, we used to have like the booklets. You can read up on who was part of what work.
So
I didn't need to ask about that. And so now I feel like, man, if we had done an interview back then, you would at least have one piece of writing, an article or whatever I did back then out there that showed the real you, because that is something that I've always strived for in my interviews with artists, to know the person behind the inspirational music. And so I think it's really good that you're aware of that. Do you think that was also harder to do because you were part of a group?
I think being in a group, which is the weirdest thing, a lot of people don't know, that when you're in a group, you could only say your part.
One-third.
Right. 1/3 of everything. So anytime there was an interview, you made sure you answered your question. And we were taught that you'd answer your question, and if the interviewer asks you another question, you have to look to the other bandmates.
Does somebody want to take this one?
Somebody want to take this question. Or, I think it's you, because you're not saying a lot, and it's supposed to be with the eyes. You look with the eyes. And I think that there was a lot that needed to be said back then that I couldn't say because I was in a group and I had to play my position. Even on a music level, I wasn't able to say certain things. Even when it came down to creativity and we'd sit down and create, it was a situation where you had to make sure that we all agreed on what you wanted to talk about. You know what I mean? So I think that being in a group, not that it was stifling, because there were certain things I was able to talk about. But,
it's limiting.
It's very limiting. And I believe now as a solo artist, I could say everything that I want to say, and I'm actually removing layers and talking about some stuff that I had bottled up that when I sit down and think about it, when I'm recording, I'm like, I wanted to say this in 94, but
Yeah, in 90 something. Yeah.
in 90 something,
Yeah.
I couldn't say it because I was in a group, but
Right.
I'm glad that I have the platform and I'm able to do that right now.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Because it made me think about, okay, I've interviewed some groups, but they weren't really like large groups. I think I haven't really interviewed a lot of groups. I mean, I've interviewed EPMD, but then it was just, it's pretty back and forth between them.
Right.
And I've never interviewed Wu-Tang as a whole. It was
Oh,
just
wow.
individual artists. Because that would not be possible, 12, 13,
Right.
14.
Yeah.
That's like, no, I would
That's
get one question.
a huge Zoom call right there. That's a huge Zoom call.
No, I meant back in the day, like,
No,
talking to people in person when they came here.
Right.
As a journalist, I think I'm really good, and so had I had the chance to interview you three, then I would know which questions to ask who. I wouldn't leave it up to you on who to answer the question, because that is costing me time, because normally you're on a time limit, and the managers be cutting me off, and
right.
I had that stuff down, like.
No, I see, and that's good journalism, because there's times when we would sit there and the journalists would come in with some incredible questions. They'd you'd have the journalists who would come in there and they did their homework. Right. So now they're sitting there and they're asking questions like, so Chip and Pac, you guys grew up and you knew each other from 11 years old. Tell me the day in the life of Chip and Pac around the age of 11. And we're looking at each other like, wow, we didn't even really think of stuff like this. You know what I mean?
You need to be more specific. That would have been, for me, just going off of the example that you're giving now, I would have been like, okay, you guys went to school on a Monday. You got into a fight. What happened? I would pick something like that, like more detailed, or whatever. Somebody got into a fight. Would you have his back, or how would that go?
See, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think that a lot of that is, you know what it is? Personalities. Like when a person is interviewing you and you're sitting across from them and you're talking to them, like I can see your personality and how you are as a person, and vice versa. So sometimes it'll trigger you to answer a particular way because now you're saying you're comfortable enough to speak to the person. And in a lot of interviews, people are coming there and be like, all right, so, with the whole hip hop edge, and you're sitting there saying, okay, well, we just basically give them the script answers like yes, no. And you guys want to elaborate on that? Well, yeah, it was good. And you know what I mean? But I think now, being able to see the individual and you're talking, and because of the time we're in, you want to speak, and you want to you're glad to answer specific questions, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I pride myself in being a top journalist, and especially hip hop, in the 90s or early 2000s, when I would walk into people, they wouldn't take me serious because I don't look like a hip hop chick or whatever. But then when I opened my mouth, suddenly the respect showed, and then it became a conversation, because I don't want to ask question, answer. It's a conversation, and I jump into what's being said, rather than just cutting them off and going on to the next thing, unless I'm on a time schedule. But anyway, I'm looking at the time right now. An hour really flies when I'm having really good conversations with people.
Yes, it does.
And I definitely want to thank you again for this, but I'm not done yet. When can we expect the new music from solo artist Chip Fu?
Man, right now we're in serious record mode. The last song that dropped was right before March, which was myself, Prayer, and Rhapsody. We dropped a song called How Low the Casket Goes. For me right now, it's just basically putting the finishing touches on what I'm recording, actually, because I told you about the change,
Yes.
There's certain things that I need people
to switch
hear.
it up.
I had to switch up a lot of stuff. So I want to say soon. I want to say real soon, because I don't want to take too long in this on this preparation, but I'm kind of happy that I had the time to make these changes, because I believe that there's certain things people need to hear now. You know what I'm saying? We need to speak to spirits and souls, not in anything else.
Yes.
To make sure that we're on the same level when it comes to music, since music is more of the healing aspect of the world right now, and conversation. Music and
Yes,
conversation go hand in hand right now.
agreed.
So I believe right now that understanding that new norm, music and conversation, is why I went back and I'm taking a little bit more time to complete the project. But
And
trust
that's
me,
fine.
everybody's gonna love it though.
There's no rush. You need to put something out that you're 100% behind, and
Yes.
that'll stay relevant in the
Yes.
days of whatever's to come.
Exactly.
Are there any more artists that you are working with or producers that you're working with that are worth mentioning or already ready to be mentioned?
There's a producer named Strobe from Boston. This kid is incredible.
Somebody told me about Stroke before.
Strobe is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty dope. He's done at least 5 joints for me on the album. James Ramsey, he's a singer. Everybody needs to look out for James Ramsey. He's an incredible singer. He's on the album. And there's some other hidden gems I can't really speak about yet.
Okay, that's fine. That's
But
fine. No,
I'm
I
just
gotta
saying,
try.
this is all good. But I think that this piece of work everybody's gonna love. And what I wanted to do is make sure that when I start putting out these pieces of work, that no one is waiting for a long time. That
Yeah.
there's work there's music that's prepared, that's ready to come out behind it. So that's the one thing I'm taking care of.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I always do with my guests is I'm a big believer of speaking things into existence. I like to have a positive mindset, so so blessings will come your way. What I want to ask you in order to speak it into existence is, who would you really still want to work with? Who is on your bucket list to work with? Could be producer, singer, rapper, songwriter, filmmaker. Who would you want to mention out into the universe to possibly work with in the near future?
Well, from my lips to God's ears, I'm going to speak this into existence, that the next time we actually have an interview, we'll be sitting across from each other and laughing about this interview. That's one. The next thing is that whoever comes into office actually would treat people as people and understand that their position of power
Very good.
is granted. Two.
Very needed.
The next thing is that the album that I put out basically will change lives.
People's lives, yeah.
Will change lives. The curriculums in schools will actually speak to the proper. It wouldn't be a situation where they're taking data from computers and trying to make kids learn that. I'm speaking into existence that the curriculum that's created would be the proper curriculum for kids. That they would set up certain rooms in schools where these kids can go and have one-on-one with people, and they could talk about their deepest, darkest secrets. And they could, it wouldn't be a situation where kids would be afraid to speak to their teachers.
Right.
It wouldn't be a situation where kids are sitting down with teachers in classes that are bussed into the schools. They'll actually sit down and be talking to teachers that look like them and can answer particular questions. I'm speaking into existence that the history that these kids are learning about their country would be the proper history that they need to
would be
and
the
not
actual
the
history.
The actual history and not the hidden history. The other thing I'm speaking into existence is that our system would understand that we shouldn't feel comfortable profiting off of death. Actually, if you have the antidote for certain things that are running rampant in our countries and in our cities, and it's something that we understand that should be free, that we are able to have access to this, and not just people that are in power could have access to these things. So these are all the things that I'm speaking into existence.
And I'm sure you have a whole list.
I have a ton of things, but we got to keep it short.
Right. And I honestly appreciate everything you just said, because again, we're speaking it into existence. I started with something that was for you, but you did something that was for all of us. And that just speaks to the kind of person that you are. I have the utmost respect for you. I already did as an MC. I did not have the chance to properly speak to you back in the 90s and whenever, but I am very grateful that you were able to do this with me today. And we're definitely going to sit across from each other in the near future.
Yes, we will.
I have to give a big shout out to Cord Digger, who's the one that actually
shout to you,
connected us. And so, I can't forget who made this possible as well. Before Instagram cuts us off, is there one last short thing, a mantra, a motto that you want to give out to the people?
Your response is your responsibility. How you respond to things is your responsibility.
Very good.
And how you receive things is your responsibility. So you can't always assume. So however you respond
take
to a
ownership
situation,
of your
right?
life.
Take ownership. Take ownership in everything. How you respond
Yes.
to situations is your responsibility. That's what I would leave everybody with.
Like that. That's very unique because nobody's said that one before.
There you go.
Chantel, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Everyone who's tuned in, thank you so much. I hope everyone stays healthy and safe out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Chip, once again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Nothing but blessings to you and your family, that you guys get through all of this, and that we get to see each other soon and break some bread in person.
There you go.
All right.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Talk
having
soon.
me. All right.
Bye.